Доброго дня.
Good morning.
Починаємо
Let's start our meeting. Members of the PCIe present during the meeting: Robert Heinbruch-Heisen, Chair of the PCIe, Roma Arts remotely, Mary Kay Butler remotely, Gabriela Gransky-Yana, Joy J. O'Sullivan, and Jessica Lott Thompson. Members of the HQCJ present: Михайло Богоніс, Людмила Волкова, Віталій Гацелюк, Ярослав Дух, Роман Кадисюк, Надія Кобецька, Олег Колюш, Ігор Кушнір, Руслан Мельник, Олексій Омелян, Андрій Пасічник, Роман Сабадаш remotely, Сергій Чумак, Галина Шевчук.
Головуючим є
I am presiding over the meeting, Chair of the Commission, Andrei Pasichnak. We have present Secretary Irina Lopushniak. I'm announcing the agenda on compliance of candidates for positions of judges of the High Anti-Corruption Court with the criteria set out by Part 4 of Article 8 of the Law on the Hague. The list of candidates: Kinakh Yana Valeriyivna, Байда Антон Олександрович, Токарська Ірина Степанівна. Are there any other suggestions? Who is in favor of the adoption of the agenda? Please vote unanimously. Thank you. The agenda has been adopted. Let's move on to the consideration of the first item on the agenda. Please invite Kinakh Yana Valeriyivna into the room.
Добрий день.
Good morning.
Розглядається питання щодо
We are
відповідності
considering the issue of compliance of the candidate for the position of the judge of the High Anti-Corruption Court, Kinakh Yana, with the criteria set out by Part 4 of Article 8 of the Law of Ukraine on the High Anti-Corruption Court. We have members of the PCIe present: Robin Heinbruch-Heisen, Chair of the PCIe, Norman Aas remotely, Mary Kay Butler remotely, Gabriela Gransky-Yana, John J. O'Sullivan, and Jessica Lott Thompson. Members of the HQCJ present: Людмила Волкова, Віталій Гацелюк, Ярослав Дух, Роман Кадисюк, Надія Кобецька, Олег Колюш, Ігор Кушнір, Руслан Мельник, Олексій Омелян, Андрій Пасічник, Роман Сападаш remotely, Сергій Чумак, Галина Шевченко. You have the right to request refusals, to submit motions, to provide explanations upon permission of the chair, to express your objections and considerations, and to challenge decisions in instances set out by the law. Do you have recusal requests? Please unmute yourself. I have no recusal request. Okay. The rapporteur regarding that is Галина Михайлівна Шевчук. Please, go over to you.
Kinakh Yana Valeriyivna, доповідь щодо неї.
Kinakh Yana Valeriyivna, with the decision of the High Qualification Commission of Judges of Ukraine dated June 3rd of 2025, there was announced competition for filling in 23 vacant positions of judges in the High Anti-Corruption Court. Within the established time frame, Kinakh applied to the Commission for admission to the competition for the vacant position of judge of the High Corruption Court and for qualification evaluation to confirm her ability to administer justice in the respective court. With the decision of the HQCJ dated September 16 of 2025, Kinakh was admitted to the qualification evaluation and participation in the competition. With the decision of the Commission dated February 4, 2026, the oral results of the first stage were approved, and Yana Kinakh was admitted to the second stage of the qualification evaluation, that is, dossier examination and interview. The overall result of the qualification exam taken by Kinakh is 315.66 points. Yana Kinakh received higher legal education in 2012 from National University Yaroslav Mudry Law Academy of Ukraine, degree of education specialist, specialty jurisprudence, qualification lawyer. In 2011, she graduated from Kyiv National University of Culture and Arts with a degree of master, specialty jurisprudence, and qualification master of law. She has no academic degree or title. She began her professional career in 2011. From 2011 to 2015, she worked at law firm Stolichny Advokat as a paralegal and legal advisor. From 2013 to 2015, she worked as a legal advisor at Zhytomyr branch of radio broadcasting, radio communications, and television concern on a part-time basis. From July 1st of 2015 to October 9th of 2015, she was the head of the department on work with clients of the Regional Center for Free Legal Secondary Legal Aid Provision in Volyn region. In 2016, she received her attorney certificate. From January of 2016 to August of 2016, she was the director of the legal department of LLC Legal and Consulting Company Liza. From July of 2016 to January of 2021, she was an attorney and self-employed person. From January of 2022, she has been a manager partner at law firm. She has more than 7 years of professional experience as an attorney, including representation in court. She is the head of public organization Yezhinka. She is the chair of the board of CSO Lyubor Stupor. She is the chair of the CSO Independent Center for Self-Governance. She is fluent in the official language at the second level. The candidate has submitted a declaration of family ties, integrity declaration, and declaration of the person authorized to perform functions of the state and local self-governance. During the competition, the Commission has sent requests to the HCJ, Security Service of Ukraine, Office of the Prosecutor General, State Border Service of Ukraine, NACP, National Police, NABU, Ministry of Justice of Ukraine, and other public authorities, and we received responses. That's it from my side. Thank you. Basic information has been enough. Maybe you would like to add anything? No, thank you. Everything was correct. Okay, thank you. Robert, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Your rapporteur will be Mary Butler, and she is on the screen, and you can see her there. Mary, can you wave and take the floor, please?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Ms. Kinakh. I first want to thank you for your cooperation in this important process. Many of the questions which I will ask you this morning, you have already responded to in writing, but for the benefit of people who may be listening to this broadcast, we want to be sure they have the benefit of your answers. I may also want to ask some additional questions based on the information that you provided. You have perhaps heard the names of the members of the PCIE. I'll just explain briefly. So we have John O'Sullivan, who is a retired federal judge from the United States. We have Robert Broekhuizen, who is a former prosecutor and a lawyer in the Netherlands. We have Gabrielle, whose last name I will mangle. She is a judge of the Supreme Court in Lithuania. And next to her, we have Jessica Lott Thompson, who is a former prosecutor and a lawyer in Canada. And I am a prosecutor in the United States. First, I want to ask you some about your motivation to apply to the HAC. Can you please explain why, as a defense attorney, you believe that the HAC court is important to you, and why you could be an important member of that court?
Hello.
Дякую. Для мене
Thank you. For me, it's really important to take part in this competition and the possibility to be a participant of this selection. Overall, I believe that this is a consistent continuation of my career growth. I have been working in the legal sphere and in the mediation sphere. I'm also the mediator. And for me, it's extremely important to understand and to combine these two spheres in which I have worked for many years, and the possibility to exercise my practical skills, my knowledge in the High Anti-Corruption Court in particular. I really admire this institution that was established with a view to improving and bringing our judiciary in compliance with those requirements that are set out nowadays by the European provisions to which we want to join. So that's why I believe that it can be useful in this regard. And the experience that I have gained by now in the criminal proceedings may be effectively used by me in the High Anti-Corruption Court. Thank you.
And we understand that you have been engaged in the private practice of law for approximately 16 years, I believe. Can can you tell us how much of your practice has involved criminal cases versus other types of law?
Ну, приблизно, я думаю,
Well,
половина
approximately, I think half of my cases were criminal cases. Initially, I specialized more on commercial cases, but probably for the past 5 years, my main specialization has been criminal law and process, including economic criminal offenses and everything related to that.
And have you had any cases or investigations involving the NABU or the SOP or the High Anti-Corruption Court?
Так, в цьому
Yes.
році у мене були
This year, I had these cases. They were related to the pretrial investigation and participation in court hearings of persons who are not suspects, who had the status of witnesses. And that's what was my main experience of working with the HAC this year. Previously, I mostly worked mostly in general jurisdiction courts.
And in general jurisdiction courts, were there allegations of corruption in some of those investigations or charged cases?
Так, були.
Yes, there were allegations, but it's the amount of the unlawful benefit and the material object that was this object of criminal proceedings allowed considering them in general jurisdiction courts.
I want to turn to ask you some questions about your, well, we'll start with traffic violations. It's my understanding that the records show that you have been engaged in 18 violations in the last 2 years alone. And I wonder if you could explain how you think we should view this conduct when you're seeking a position of such important public trust in Ukraine.
Дякую за запитання.
Thank you for your question. These events did happen. I have provided written explanations about that, but at the same time, I would like to inform, and I previously informed the PCIe and the Commission that not all of these violations were about me personally, because 2 vehicles were registered in my name. One of these vehicles was used by Max's husband, and I was using the other vehicle. Moreover, both vehicles were systematically used by my husband as well. That's why I cannot state for 100% which of these violations were mine. At the same time, approximately half of them did indeed concern me. I can explain. I drive around quite a lot. My legal practice is not only on the territory of Volyn region, and unfortunately for the past years, we have encountered air raid alarms quite often, and moments when maybe I was excessively in a hurry or was maybe not very attentive, and these speeding instances did happen. But I would like to inform at the same time that these violations happened outside of settlements, and the speeding was just minor. It was not significant. Of course, it's not undermining my responsibility, no. Right now, I'm very critical of these actions, which were not done intentionally. Probably that was because of the lack of attentiveness. And I also would like to ask the Commission to be quite critical of that, because I, as a candidate for the position of the Judge of the Hague, am subject to high public evaluation, including these matters as well. So for me, that's a very important lesson learned. And that's a huge motivation not to commit these violations in the future, and to show that these actions are not systemic, but rather were excused by some life circumstances.
So, thank you for your answer. With regard to the violations in 2024 and 2025, it appears that many of them were issued to the driver of a 2018 Audi Q5 that in 2024 and 2025 may not have been owned by you. Can you explain when you obtained the right to use this Audi Q5, which I understand you have previously said you sold in November of 2023?
Так, я продала цей
Yes,
автомобіль.
I sold that vehicle in November of 2023. After the sale, I also got 2 fines regarding violations of traffic rules. I have forwarded them to the buyer of this vehicle. She paid those fines, but back then, unfortunately, I could not send a written notification to patrol police bodies regarding the replacement of the data about the person notified of this violation. So that's why I believe that these actions should be considered as an attempt, after all, to correct the situation. But at the same time, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that I'm always diligent in paying these fines, and maybe my motivation was not to increase the burden regarding the challenging of this fine, and and I wanted also to pay to the state budget. So unfortunately, we did not submit an application that these violations were committed not by me.
But if the car was still registered in your name after you sold it, does that suggest that you didn't re-register the car in the name of the buyer?
Перереєстрували.
We re-registered the car in the name of the buyer. The only thing was that really there was a power of attorney for re-registration. It was not done as of the moment of sale. And for some period of time, I don't remember specifically, but for example, I guess it was a month and a half when the new buyer was using the car that was still registered in my name.
I mean, as a lawyer, are you concerned that this delay in changing the registration means that you have liability during that period where the car is not re-registered to the buyer?
Так, однозначно.
Yes, of course. The right of ownership imposes liability. I understand that, and I understand that that liability was on me. That's why we paid these fines and we closed them within the beneficial period. So we paid 50% of the fine amount.
With respect to this car, this Audi Q5, you did not disclose that you owned this car in your 2023 declaration. Can you explain why you failed to disclose it?
Так, можу пояснити.
Yes, I can explain that. By mistake, I did not do that because back then, by filling in the declaration, I thought that since the vehicle had already been sold as of the moment of filling in the declaration, that's why I did not declare that. Subsequently, I became aware of my mistake, and in my next declaration, I provided correct information.
But you sold the car in 2023. So what are you saying you corrected? In 2024, you reflected that you sold it in 2023? I'm sorry, I didn't understand your answer.
Ні, я маю на увазі, що в наступній
No, I mean that in my next declaration for 2024, I declared all movable and immovable objects that I was using in the reporting period.
Can you tell us how, it's my understanding that an Audi Q5 is a fairly expensive car. Can you explain to us how you, what the source of income was to purchase this car?
Так, на той момент я не була
Yes, back then I was not the person filing declarations, but I have worked since the first year of my university studies I accumulated some funds previously. Some funds were received from attorneys' activities, from mediators' activities. Moreover, I was showing in my income, and the Commission has evidence that I took active part as the head of the CSO in grant activities, in particular in mediation for IDPs, and I also got remuneration there. Moreover, these were partially funds accumulated by my family, by my parents, who helped me financially, including for the purchase of the car. Moreover, the car was imported from the USA. It was a bit damaged, which had to be repaired. That's why I believe that its condition was not, or status of that vehicle were not the luxury item. That's like an average middle-class car that I was using.
And in what year did you acquire the Audi Q5?
В 2021
In 2021.
I want to focus some questions on your 2023-2024 declarations. By the end of 2023, you declared that you had $40,000 in cash in savings. And in the next year, in 2024, so that was in 2023, the $40,000 in cash. And in the next year, you disclosed that you had $60,000 in cash. So a $20,000 increase in 1 year. Yet in 2024, your official income was declared as $8,639. And can you explain to us what the source of the cash savings was? In particular, let's focus first on the $20,000 increase between 2023 and 2024 in savings.
Частково це було
Partially, that was savings through my own savings from official income, and partially in November of 2025, my father died. After the death of my father, there were cash funds remaining, which were divided among us by my mother.
I'm sorry, did you say that your father passed in 2025?
In 2024, on November 29 of 2024.
So, but you did not declare inheritance as a source of income in your 2024 declaration. Is that correct?
Так, тому що офіційно вони не входили до складу спадщини, на такі грошові кошти не
Yes,
отримували.
because officially I didn't get a certificate from the notary service. So it was the savings of our family, of my mother, of my father. So we don't include them to the inheritance, but we include them to the savings that became known when I filled out my declaration.
So just to make sure I understand, in 2024, your official income was declared as $8,639, but your actual income from inheritance and family was $20,000 in 2024. Is that right?
Ну, орієнтовно так.
Well, approximately, yes.
And how is it that your father was in a position to leave you a significant inheritance? My understanding that he was receiving income as a pensioner.
Так, він працював все життя, він був
Yes,
пенсіонером.
he worked for all his life, and he was also a employee at the Internal Affairs, Ministry of Internal Affairs, and he got both his salary and pension in the later years. I also stated in my explanation the court decisions regarding the recalculation of his pension, about 100,000 hryvnia. His pension was rather significant, and this is how he managed to make savings, and that was done throughout many years, not only in the later years. And the exchange rate, by the time he accumulated money and changed them to dollars, he managed to allowed him to increase his savings even more. And he was also very economical man, and he would try to economize on things or buy things on a reasonable price.
Thank you. Now I have a question about your role in connection with a piece of property in Lutsk at Chopin Street 22A. As I understand it, you were the managing partner and director of General Legal Group of Attorneys, which was registered to this location. But in 2023 and 2024 declarations, you did not disclose anything about a legal right to use this property. Can you explain what your connection was to this property?
Так, я вважаю, що у мене не виник
That's-
обов'язок декларувати цю адресу, тому що
I believe that I didn't have an obligation to declare this, because as a self-employed, I didn't work at that address. I was only the managing partner, the director of that legal group. Therefore, the lease agreement was made between the association and the landlord, and I didn't have any relation to that. I also provided some explanation yesterday to the PCI members, and I didn't have a direct right to sublease of that property. Therefore, I did not declare it, did not disclose that information, because I didn't believe to have this obligation. And in the Register of Attorneys of Ukraine, there is official information. So my workplace is official and public.
And your workplace is where?
місто Луцьк, вулиця Шопена,
Луцьк.
22.
Chopin Street 22A.
Okay, so that's where you work, but you say that the agreement to occupy that space is between the company and the owner of that property, not you personally. Is that right?
Так, тому що я згідно...
Yes, this is right, because I work as an attorney of that association.
Okay. Now I want to ask you a few questions about some of the matters that you have been involved in your career as an attorney. Some of these have been brought to our attention by CSOs, and some have appeared in open source reporting. My first question has to do with litigation involving your now ex-husband in connection with his status as a victim. And this, well, first, am I correct that you were married to your former husband from 2019 until sometime in 2025?
Ну, офіційно так, до 25-го року.
Officially, yes, we were together until 2025, but we stopped our marriage before.
І побрались ми в березні 19-го року.
And we got married in March 2019.
So with respect to this litigation in 2019, it's my understanding that your ex-husband, but then husband, admitted during this proceeding that he had been engaged in smuggling cigarettes illegally to Europe. Am I correct about that?
Мені про це нічого не відомо було.
I don't know anything. I didn't know anything about it at the time of the litigation, and I only was there as a witness. And you can find my statement in the verdict. I knew a completely different information back then about his activities.
But in that litigation, am I correct that you learned that he admitted he had been involved in this illegal cigarette smuggling?
Якщо комісія дозволить, я просила б
Well, if the Commission allows, I would like to provide an answer to this question in a closed format because it relates to a secret
Well,
judicial.
maybe we can ask the other questions first and come back to this. Would that be all right? Be as efficient as we can. Mr. Chairman, is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll come back to that. It's my understanding that there have been some press reports about your involvement as a lawyer in connection with some cases involving the transfer of land. And these have been reported in the Volyn News. And this has to do with the situations where the prosecutor's office has opened a criminal proceeding on forgery of documents where approximately 200 applications purportedly from citizens were filed. But these people claim that they did not participate in this process, and that you are but in fact you are the lawyer involved in this litigation. So there are people who say that you were not their lawyer, but you represented that you were. Can you clarify this situation?
Так, можу пояснити.
Yes.
Позивних заяв було 172, вони були частково
About 172 claims there were there, and they were brought together into one case, and some mass media, in a not very appropriate way, highlighted this information. Then that information was denied, challenged and denied, and there was no legal ground to claim that I committed any illegal actions. And there were only 2 cases when people said that I did not represent them among all those 172. One of those died. That was an assumption of the heir that I hadn't represented them, and it was indeed a very complex case. The other case was when the mass media arrived at my client's place and asked some incorrect, inappropriate questions, and then my clients denied what they had said. Mm. And then the client said that the mass media just confused them by their inappropriate questions, and then they confirmed that I were representing them at that time. The disciplinary proceeding was not opened against me because when those facts were established, or when the situation was investigated further, the facts were not confirmed, and the mass media that published that information in the first place was recognized as the one violating the rules of journalist ethics and as the one providing inappropriate information to the audience. And regarding the protection of honor and dignity, I have had multiple cases like that, and I represented clients, and my clients were satisfied with my services, but in that case was inappropriate propagation of information.
Thank you. I now have a question about the obligation to report membership in civil society organizations. In particular, did you disclose your membership in the Association of Carriers and Importers of Vehicles in your declarations?
I
provided a written statement regarding this answer. I have never been a member of this association, legally speaking, and that CSO, I only had one instance of legal relations with them. I once provided them legal services. I can... Testing.
Oh, yeah, I hear it.
Mm-hmm. Can I continue? So I have never been a member of this association. I have never had a legal status of membership there.
Is it correct that your connection to this organization was as their counsel in connection with a criminal proceeding?
Yes, this is correct.
One other question before we come back to the issue of the 2019 representation. It's my understanding that you have that the public records show that you have left the territory of Ukraine on November 15th of 2025, returning on November 23rd, 2025. Do you recall that you made a trip outside Ukraine during that time?
Yes, I often travel abroad beyond Ukraine, but I'm just remembering what that trip was.
Perhaps I can refresh your recollection. According to official records, you were traveling in a car owned by the chairman of the Irpin City Court of Kyiv and the deputy head of the Territorial Administration of State Judicial Administration in Kyiv, and that at least on 11/23, so on the return trip, you were listed as the driver. Can you tell us the purpose of the trip in connection with these people?
Так, можу нагадати.
Yes,
Я
I can.
достатньо відразу зорієнтувалася щодо року, тому можу
So
чітко
I was confused about the year first. I can tell you about this trip. It was an institutional visit of lawyers, of attorneys, and other lawyers in order to educate themselves about the judicial system in Ireland. And these trips are usually organized by universities, and they unite the legal community where we can get to know the legal culture of a different country better.
And I assume you can understand that, especially in consideration of your potential position on the high anti-corruption court, there will be much interest in whether you have connections to other public officials on a personal level or a professional level. And that's the reason for these questions.
Безперечно, за роки практики.
Certainly, yes. Over the years of my practice, I have formed a circle of colleagues from different legal spheres. At the same time, I can assure you, I can assure the Commission that no such acquaintances or connections are used in my personal life. They're exclusively used in my professional career and for professional needs. I don't use them in order to satisfy any personal needs. And a potential conflict of interest is unfounded at this time.
Okay, and then to return to the just to focus you on the question before we consider moving to a closed session. Let me state the question. You don't need to answer until you have had a chance to consider if you want to answer in closed session. But what I'm interested in is the fact that in 2019, in the course of this proceeding in which your husband was a victim, you learned that he was engaged in illegal activity. And I'm interested in what measures you took after learning about the illegal business to ensure that you were not receiving income from this business and that you were not involved in any way in promoting this business. So that's the question. And now, if you think you need to answer in closed session, please tell us.
Я не була абсолютно усвідомлена того, що мій колишній
So I was not aware that my ex-husband involved in any illegal activities. More than that, as of today, I cannot confirm or deny it because any court decisions regarding my ex-husband or other parties or bodies are absent, and I don't know anything about it. And with regard to my actions, of course, I would like to inform you of some circumstances in the closed format because it also relates to medical secret and safety of my children.
So, Mr. Chairman, should we?
Якщо є необхідність обговорити в закритому режимі.
So if we need to discuss it in the closed session, then let us switch to the closed session. Maybe not exactly to consider this, but in order to for you to substantiate your motion. And then with your absence, we will take a decision whether to switch to the closed session or not. So please stop
Ми відновили трансляцію, продовжуємо засідання.
We are
І під час закритого
live
обговорення
again.
заявленого клопотання,
And after we discussed the candidate's motion, the candidate revoked her motion to switch to the closed session. So we continue the session in the open format.
Thank you. And I want to return to the narrow question of whether after you learned that your husband admitted involvement in criminal activity involving cigarette smuggling, whether you received any illegal income derived from that activity.
Дякую за запитання. Я ніколи
Thank you for this question. I have never received any illegal income from any of his illegal activities, if it really happened. And currently, this information cannot be checked because the correctness of his statement cannot be checked by any means.
Thank you. I have no further questions at this time.
Thank you, Mary. Just looking here. No further questions at this moment on this side, the chair.
Дякую, Галина Михайлівна. Прошу вас.
Thank you.
Да, будь ласка.
Over to you.
Запитання до вас. Ви маєте
So a question to you is the following. You have a visa to Canada, working visa to Canada, work permit, Canadian visa, and you said that in your explanation. Are you taking, do you mean to stay in Ukraine, and this is why you participate in the competition, or what are your plans? Thank you for your question. Yes, indeed. When the war started, I didn't know how. Just, you can be brief. After the first visit, I realized that I didn't want to live in any other country beyond Ukraine. Okay, thank you.
You said that it was a minor speeding, that you were in a hurry, you had some considerations probably when you were speeding, and you're saying that it was minor. But according to information available to the Commission, for example, through settlement, you were driving with a speed of 103 kilometers per hour, and you were speeding by 50 kilometers. I admit existence of these offenses, but at the same time, I cannot state that I was the one driving the car back then. Okay, thank you. You're a lawyer, as you are saying, with a huge experience, right? You're a candidate for the position of the High Anti-Corruption Court. Do you know about the mechanism of challenging these protocols if you did not commit that administrative offense? Of course, I am aware of this mechanism back then, since I did not have some acute issue of public coverage of some ethical standards. I decided not to burden the judiciary, not to challenge these fines. If these administrative offenses did happen, regardless of who committed them, I decided to pay fines and to close the proceedings. Of course, now I would have acted differently. Okay, thank you. So, do we understand it correctly that if it is covered for the public, then your conduct becomes known to the public, then you will comply with traffic rules, and you will comply with those high principles that are required from the candidate for the position of the judge. But if you're an attorney and that's not public information, then basically you can violate 17 times per year, 11 times per year, and with quite substantial violations.
Ні, звісно.
Ваші
No,
подвійні стандарти там.
Do you have double standards in this regard? No, of course, no. I'm not excusing my actions or actions of any other person.
Каяття в даному випадку. Мова не йде про щире
We are not talking about your sincere repentance. We are talking about double standards.
У мене відсутні подвійні
Right now, I do not have double standards. I believe that everyone, without any exception, should comply with traffic rules, and I should do that primarily. Okay, thank you.
Це тоді ще раз.
Let's come back then again to your income,
Зокрема, до
in
заощаджень.
particular, savings.
$40,000
$40,000 that you accumulated as savings and later on increased by $20,000 more.
А то ви дуже в загальному так
You described very in general, you just under that the entire family was saving that. Not the entire family, but first of all, these were my personal savings. Okay, your own savings,
з якого по який рік
since which year until which year your personal savings, what were your personal savings in this amount of $60,000? From 2011, when I started working, I have always tried to accumulate savings. No, not general, specific figures.
Приблизно конкретні цифри, орієнтовні цифри.
Yes. Approximate specific figures according to your savings. Okay, $60,000 as savings ultimately.
Станом на
How-
момент
As of 2023, for which I filed the declaration, $40,000, which were my personal savings accumulated from my salary and other types of income. What are other types of income? Please specify that. Because from the tax inspection data that are available to us, we do not see any other
Це
income.
були за доходи, які ви, як законослухняний громадянин, мали би все оподатковувати.
You should have taxed everything. What were this income? So this was my salary. Unfortunately, the tax inspection data does not reflect all the income.
Ні, я не про це.
So did you get your salary in envelopes? No, I'm saying that I took part in the election commission. I took part as the member of the commission on attestation of prosecutors. Okay, these were funds that are not reflected in the tax inspection.
Зокрема, власне,
Well, in particular, these funds that were received from the attestation commission. Okay, what were the amounts?
в 19-му році близько
It was in 2019 about 120,000 hryvnias.
Чому вони не відображені?
Why they are not reflected anywhere? I do not know about that. I was accrued according to the contract. You do not know about that. Okay, let's move on. That was official contract. What about other types of income?
Види доходів, які
What are the types of income that you could name now?
120 тисяч
120,000 hryvnias from the prosecutor's office. You've voiced that. Then
організації. Також участь
also participation in election campaign. In election campaign, how much was it? Because not always that's the paid activity.
Відомостях по всьому вони не проходять так, щоб
Sometimes they are not registered.
це були гроші.
це були офіційні.
Were these funds in the envelope? No. How much? I cannot tell you specifically now. It was about $1,000. Okay, $1,000. Then next, accumulated salary. Back then, I lived with my ex-husband, who was actually providing funds for the family, so I could accumulate my income as savings. Maybe that was the income, as Madam Butler was just asking you. Maybe your savings were accumulated from illegal activities or income from illegal activities of your ex-husband. You just said no. Now you're saying that you actually lived using his funds, and that helped you to accumulate your savings. I'm sorry, I was married twice. Why are you saying that? I'm talking about my first husband. Oh, okay, first husband. These were savings of the first husband as well? No, we're just we're accumulating funds together. So in total, how much can it be? From $60,000? From $60,000, approximately 5. And what about $55,000? I've informed 60,000 were formed as a general amount after the death of my father, when his funds remain. So pay how much did you receive as inheritance after the death of your father? About $20,000. $20,000. Okay, tell me please. Do you have any documents to confirm that these $20,000 were inherited after the death of your father? I provided explanations to the commission. I provided court decisions. You are the attorney. You are taking part in court hearings, and you are well aware of what is proper evidence and what is words. Proper written evidence. Do you have that? No, I don't. Okay, you don't. Okay, thank you. With respect to you, there were initiated disciplinary proceedings several times. As an attorney, please, what is the reason why these disciplinary cases were initiated with respect to you? I've explained that, and I would like to tell that both times, actually, there was the initiation of disciplinary complaints upon complaints of the local TV channel and the person who had a relation to that. In both cases, there was why did they submit complaints against you? Because from their broadcast that they recorded, they allegedly established that I did not comply with the rules of attorney's ethics. But the circumstances and facts were not confirmed, they were completely refuted. Okay. Your income as a defense attorney are not that significant. Quite low income, let's put it that way, as for the attorney. Not high. But there are a lot of powers of attorneys and instructions and re-instructions, and you take part in cases quite actively. So please explain this imbalance. I'm working as a member of law firm, and all the income is received by the law firm. At the same time, the expenses that we are having are confirmed with respective legal documents and are attached to court cases. So my official salary that I'm getting from the law firm is the level of income that I'm getting personally. Can you name the figure? About 15,000 hryvnias, that's without dividends. Every year, as a founder, I'm getting dividends. 50,000 hryvnias per month, okay. But at the website of your law firm, the prices are quite high because all the income. By the way, our law firm on the territory of Volhynia region has quite high income according to declaration. So that shows the real income of your law firm. Here you were saying that you were accumulating savings from your legal practice, but you do not have income. You're saying that you are getting 15,000 hryvnias per month. Then you also have to support your family financially, etc. So is this your real income, or maybe you're getting income in envelopes? In my opinion, you did not fully reflect this information. But of course, I also have income from mediators' activities. How much per month? That's not per month. That's last year. It was about 60,000 hryvnias plus dividends from the law firm. In addition to the salary last year, it was about 100,000 hryvnias. Now you're talking about last year, but for some reason now we have a tendency in our procedures that usually people have funds for 2025, but 2022, 2023, 2021, 2019. As a rule, we see very low income. Yes, maybe in 2025. No, I'm talking about 2023 and 2024 and income from grant activities. I always try to take part in other projects. Okay, thank you. I've got my answer. You're also stating, not you, but according to tax data, you have lots of payments from insurance companies. What are those payments? What are the grounds for that? Not many. Last year, that was 2 traffic accidents in which I was not the guilty person. I have quite good insurance policies. Okay, so these are payments from traffic accidents, so to say. Yes, where was the victim?
таке
And
нещастя
you had
присутньою, але
an unfortunate situation of being present there, but everything went fine for you, relatively fine. During the last traffic accident, my smaller child was seriously affected. There were 2 enforcement proceedings were initiated with respect to you. What is that? These are enforcement proceedings regarding parking fines. Back then, I will briefly explain. Back then, the Department of Municipal Guards started working loose. Do not provide this in-depth explanation why it happened. Did you pay that? Yes, of course. And after all, you did not answer the question as to why you have so many instructions. I do not quite understand what you are talking about now. We have these instructions, and later on, under these instructions, there were re-instructions to other persons. I think mostly it is related to the corporate activities of my clients, where the grantee should be the individual in case of the change of corporate rights, because that is one of the key spheres of our activities. And I can explain that only through that, because there are no impersonal powers of attorney or instructions from me. Okay, thank you. Probably I have one more question. You got repayable financial assistance in the amount of 20,000 hryvnias. What was that financial assistance? That was repayable financial assistance from law firm in which I am working, because during the period of time when we were only starting and developing our law firm, and back then we did not have lots of funds accumulated on our accounts, but I've always prioritized development of the law firm, not only for the sake of income, but also for the sake of reputation. Okay, because the public, the civil society has sent requests to us. We've covered almost all of these questions. One of these questions raised by CSOs was about this repayable financial assistance. And the civil society has concerns that maybe this way you try to avoid paying taxes. No, in your opinion, no. The law firm is paying quite significant taxes. Okay, you've answered my question. I have no more questions. Maybe my colleagues have some questions. In continuation of this topic of savings and increasing your savings in 2024, you have repeatedly said that these were $20,000 that probably were mostly accumulated by your parents. And after the death of your father in 2024, the savings were divided and you got $20,000 that actually increased your savings. Yes, that's very approximate amount, because I live with my mom and she has some funds left. Okay, but your parents are your family members in the anti-corruption legislation. You're declaring them in your declarations for 2023 and 2024. In 2023, you are declaring income and property of your parents, but no financial savings. So there is a question. If they had these savings, then you were supposed to declare them in your declaration for 2023. And then it would be logical that your parents and mother or father had those savings, and then they would have divided them. And then you would have this increase of 20,000. But we do not see any savings of your mother or father in your declaration. Yes, I would like to inform that in 2023 and 2022, my father was very sick and probably he was unable to talk. He was quite a peculiar person in terms of financial situation, and my mother and I were not aware of his savings. Maybe my mom had some guesses, but we had no clue about amounts, where, how, and some of that became known after his death when third persons told us about that. Vitaly, good afternoon. A couple of questions about your practical assignments. if you remember that.
Стосовно призначення покарання.
With respect to the appointment of the punishment, I will quote a part of your paper regarding the circumstances. You've been governed by Article 100. Exonerating circumstances for the punishment include complete higher education. He is married, he has 2 minor children, and he is a person with disability of the second group. He is a member of the regional council, has a permanent place of work. He works as the director of LLC, has no previous convictions, has a place of registration, is registered and lives at this address, has positive characteristics according to the characteristics provided by the regional council, is always diligent to his duties, has demonstrated himself to be a good, diligent member of the council, is and signed by the head of the regional council. That's your quote. Can you please specify what of this was an exonerating circumstance? Because if we read everything, it looks like you've included all of that into this exonerating circumstance. Because of the lack of time, maybe I did not correctly word that. I was supposed to quote that apart from the exonerating circumstances, we can also include other circumstances into the determination of the punishment. And then it would be correct to quote that. But at the same time, I would include attitude towards the committed criminal offense, existence of minor children on financial support, and the health condition, in particular, disability of the second group. If now I had a chance to add something, of course, after self-criticism, I would have amended it significantly. Okay, thank you. And if you remember, the wording of the criminal code was amendment. As of the moment of the offense, there was the code dated 2021 in effect, and then the punishment got harsher. And you've used the new updated provision, and you applied higher and harsher punishment. While pointing the punishment, the court does not believe that it is possible to take into account the provision in the version of the law dated of 2021, because actions committed in March of 2024, when Article 46 on the law on the corruption prevention were in effect, as well as provisions of the criminal code in the current version. But the current version came into effect after the action was committed. Can you please explain in more detail why you applied the new sanction, which was higher than the one that was in effect when the offense was committed? Right now, it's difficult for me to recall this situation. I really remember that we were actively discussing after the completion of the practical assignment, and later on, I came to a conclusion that I was supposed to apply the other sanction. Okay, thank you. Yes, please. Thank you for the opportunity to ask some questions. Madam Yana Melnik, Commission member. Of course, my question will be about the fact that is causing most doubts, maybe. But the question is how reasonable these doubts are. And that is about so-called financial integrity. And I'm talking about this increase in your cash savings throughout 2024 by $20,000. You've just explained that these are the funds that, according to you, you got from your father, basically. Just as far as I understand, your father is dead. Yes. So, did you accept inheritance? My mother accepted inheritance, my brother and I refused to accept the official inheritance part. Okay. So, these $20,000 were actually inherited property. Well, yes, but since it was not officially declared, it was not on accounts, it was in cash. That's why we did not put that officially through the certificate of inheritance. Okay, now look. You are a practicing lawyer. You've just mentioned that you have the respective professional experience, thanks to which you believe that you can be a candidate for the position of the judge of the High Anti-Corruption Court. So, which measures did you take? Let's use this word, in order to legalize, or at least to put these funds into the legal domain so that we and external observers would have no doubts about the source of origin of these funds. You just don't understand and do not know about the mechanisms of how these funds could have been turned into a part of inheritance, and then they could have been inherited, and there would be no questions then. Maybe the notary refused to do that, or maybe you just thought that you can take any money, bring it, and say, it's from my father, just believe me. And that will be enough for us not to have any doubts about these funds. Unfortunately, we did not take those decisions, but at the same time, I'm aware of my mistake. The inheritance case is not open right now, and these issues can be addressed legally, and I will do that, of course. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Colleagues, do you have any other questions? Dear members of the PCIe, maybe you have some new questions?
I don't think so. No, thank you.
Добре, дякую.
Okay, then. Thank you. Madam Yana, you have an opportunity to address the Commission, the members of the PCIe. Maybe you would like to add something? If necessary, please, let's go over to you. My sincere gratitude to all members of the PCIe and HQCJ for this interview. I perceive it not only as a professional growth, but also an opportunity to look at my mistakes, maybe some inaccuracies, including my lifestyle, and maybe some imperfections that I would like to highlight. I'm very self-critical towards myself and my work, and in any case, this interview is a huge impetus for self-improvement and for bringing some spheres of my life into legal alignment, which is required by the society. Thank you for this experience. Thank you. We are happy that we are helping you to achieve those goals that you've just mentioned. Thank you for your participation. And now I'm announcing the break.